My name is Jack Marino. I'm an independent filmmaker out here in Los Angeles. I met Keith about 8 years ago on his first show he was doing, and he interviewed me today. And it's great seeing him again. He's very good, very professional. I like the look of his background in the show. I enjoy discussing my career with him, and also I urge all you people to follow Keith Andrews on the internet.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith Andrew, and you're watching the one and only hit YouTube show exclusive to the Keith Andrew Network. It is the Keith Andrew Network. I am your host, Keith Andrew, doing a special introduction for a very special guest of mine. It's Jack. It's been 8 years. How the hell have you been?
Well, Keith, you're looking good. Things have been, plugging along as they do out here in Hollywood. It seems like your show is getting bigger and growing on the internet, so which is good. That's a congratulations. I had my own radio show for 6 years, and then one of my sponsors passed away, and I had to shut the show down. So, but other than that. Just to let your audience know, I'm an independent filmmaker. I came out here in 1980, and it took me 4 years to do my first film called Kill Zone, which my own company. That film was basically it went out, made money. I paid my investors back with a little profit, which most guys, independent filmmakers, never do. I'm probably the first one in history to do it. But after that, about 1986, 87, I kind of buried the film because my partners on it went on to other things, and I wanted to do other things. And it subsequently, after all these years, a distributor called me up, Verdugo Entertainment, and they wanted to take Killzone out. So I had to go into the tomb and get it out. So it took us about 3 months to negotiate the deal, and I just dropped all my elements that I have not even seen since 1986. All the film elements, all 35 millimeter films. So they're working on that. They're going to basically stream it. They're also going to do a limited theatrical, which I can't believe. But they have a niche market for action films made in the 80s. Which Killzone was probably one of the first action films that we created, because in 85, after 85, everybody was making Killzone type movies. I mean, they were just in the jungle, because we were the first ones to go into a jungle area, just a bunch of guys with some guns and some booby traps, and it just turned the whole AFM film market into a whole different genre. It just opened up a whole new thing. So. It just spawned off a lot of action movies all through between 85 and 95 in that 10-year period. So they happened to grab my film, and we negotiated a decent deal, and like all distributors, if they're honest, I'll get paid. If they're not, then we get a problem. So so I haven't met an honest distributor yet, but I'm always hoping for that first time you meet a guy that will pay you. So. But it's fun to get the film out. They're going to transfer it onto 4K, so it will be streamed on every streaming outlet except Netflix, because Netflix does their own stuff. So and then they're going to make Blu-rays. I know there's a lot of people out there that followed the Killzone and the directive that shot Killzone. And he went on to make a new company called Action International Pictures. They did about 60, 70 films, basically the same Killzone genre, just with a different title. So he just made a cookie cutter of the same stuff. So there's a lot of films out there that have a following. So I was told that Killzone has a huge cult following. So And I do, I mean, I used to get emails from people that are you the producer of Killzone? When is the DVD coming out? So and so now it's going to come out, so which is good. I mean, I wasn't expected at all to happen to me. So we'll see what happens. So they're going to transfer all the original elements onto a hard drive, color correct everything, and then I guess they're going to do a new piece of artwork based upon the old one, and they're going to run with it. So they've released 2 films so far in their market, but they're talking about taking this film out theatrically in a limited release through Alamo. It's Alamo Theaters. It's they do low budget films, for specific markets. So we'll see what happens. I mean, at this age, whatever happens is a blessing. So meanwhile, after I did Killzone, I did a film. Took me 4 years to raise the money. I met my partner John Liebert, and we raised the money for Forgotten Heroes. And that was a much bigger film. It looks like a studio made it. And I was an independent filmmaker, producer, and director of this film. Killzone I just produced, but Forgotten Heroes I directed it. And the quality on Forgotten Heroes is light years ahead of Killzone. So, and the proof of that is, I think on Killzone we got 1 screening at 20th Century Fox. And I asked the acquisition guy to sit through the whole thing. Most of the executives got out after the first reel. So that's a bad sign right there. So, but I asked him, I wanted his honest opinion because I wanted to know where I stood, where I was on the food chain, And because I didn't want to waste my time going after the studios, which I knew it wasn't a studio film, but I just would like to get a feedback from somebody in that profession, And but in the AFM market, Killzone, I mean, everybody wanted the film, and I managed to get an advance from Killzone, so which was impossible. It still is impossible. Even the deal I made recently, they won't give advances out. So and I could never get an advance on Forgotten Heroes, and that's one reason why I walked out most of the deals, because the deals on the back end was they keep all the profit and I get nothing. So that was basically the deal. The only ones who pay you money if you go to the major studios. And I almost closed the deal with MGM and Westinghouse, 2 separate deals. And I was offered money that would have basically made my life perfect. And I probably would have got a 3-picture deal from the MGM, and maybe I would have, well, not maybe, I would have made the second film. Whether I would have done all 3, I don't know. But they would have put Forgotten Heroes out there, dumped millions of dollars into me on the second picture, because that's what they normally do. And then if that film does okay, then they fund the third one, If not, they throw me out with the baby, with the bathwater, everything. So,
No, I understand. And usually I tell people I want my type of background. But, I try to make every show different, but let's make it more fun and more interactive. I want you to tell our audience about everything that you have behind you. I'm staring at, I think, a lamp in a box right behind you. Something about it, I'm just like hypnotized about it.
Oh, you mean in my this is my home office. This was my son's bedroom, and I had my office in the garage. So when he moved out, I repainted the place and put everything up. That's, you mean where the big lamp is?
Yes.
That box here? That's my cigars.
How big are the cigars?
That's my humidor. I got that. My wife bought me that for Father's Day years ago. Because I was getting, a lot of friends were having kids at that time, and they would give me cigars, and I used to keep them in my desk drawer. So then I started smoking them again, and then then I said, I better get a humidor. I got a good deal on this one. This holds about 120 cigars. So I get 30, 40 at a time. So it's good. I belong to a couple of. One was called the Freedom Cigar Club. We founded that, a bunch of conservative guys. Tony Katz was one of the guys who started it, and Tony's got a radio show in Milwaukee. So he's interviewed Trump. He's done a lot of great stuff, Tony. So he's climbing up there. So, but and then I got a lot of the pictures I have around here, people I worked with in the film business and stuff, and posters, and a lot of them are signed by people I worked with. So, but Forgotten Heroes, between 1990 and 92, I had over 250 screenings in Hollywood. So, you don't have that many screenings if your movie's lousy, So the studios, I managed to get, there's 5 studios. I managed to get 35 screenings out of 5 studios. So they wanted the picture. They loved the picture. The problem was they would tell me on the phone, that the movie was powerful, was profound, but it's not the kind of movie we would pick up at this time.
Yeah.
And, since I show the Vietnam veterans as heroes, and I'm dealing with a very ultra liberal industry, and most of the executives who I was dealing with were either my age or a few years older. And in the 60s, they were out there protesting the war. So I've always said that the Vietnam veterans, there's a vendetta in Hollywood about the Vietnam vets, more so than any other veteran. So anything, if I had shown my guys in Forgotten Heroes raping and killing babies and burning villages down, they would have picked the film up and probably thrown me an Oscar. So, since I was a first-time director, who knows? I mean, it's just it could go anywhere with these people. So, but I wanted to make a movie with Forgotten Heroes, and the funny thing about Forgotten Heroes was that in I think it was 86, Platoon had come out. Now, Platoon was a very good war movie. The characters were all good in it. The story was good. Oliver Stone wrote it. He's a hell of a filmmaker. But to me, he's beyond a filmmaker. He's a propagandist. He's a great editor, but he's a propagandist. And he just went after the Vietnam vets, and these were because he served in Vietnam, and these was his brothers over there. And basically, he broke it down into 2 stories. One is an evil sergeant, the other one's a good sergeant. So that was like, this was their version of the war. You had the anti-war protesters and the protests, the people supporting the war. Now, where I grew up in Boston, I hung out with all Vietnam guys. They were all happy-go-lucky. I never known a Vietnam guy to be psycho, to be an alcoholic, to be divorced. These guys just loved it. And they would tell me all their great stories. And they said it was the highlight of their life because they went over there and it was the greatest rush in the world. And a lot of them seen some action. Now, one of my friends that he's almost 70 now. I mean, he got 2 Bronze Stars over there. And he's very close to my dad. And they worked together at Monsanto when we all worked there. That's where I met them. And Jimmy's a great guy, and he gave my father one of his Bronze Stars. That was a nice tribute to him. So, but again, from my perspective, this is how I felt most Vietnam veterans were. And through the years being out here in LA, I met a lot of veterans. I met retired lieutenant generals. What we saw on television and in the movies about Vietnam veterans was the opposite of what my experience was. So I wanted to put that in films. I wanted to show these kids going over there, doing their job, sacrificing their life, and basically coming home and then being mistreated.
Right.
No,
I understand.
the World War II guys did the same thing. They went over there, but they weren't mistreated. The Korean guys came home and they were more or less ignored. The Vietnam guys were spit on. And so I wanted to make Forgotten Heroes as the opposite of what Platoon was. Now, people who don't make films, guys like me come out from Boston, and I have no contacts, don't know anybody in the business. And I managed to raise money on 2 films, which is an impossibility, but I did it. So Platoon comes out in 86. I happened to meet this guy who's a real estate investment broker. He loves my script. He loves what I want to do. He says, I'll help you. I'll get some funding for you. Meanwhile, I had some commitments from back east. So between the two of us, we raised the money. Now, this was 86. I think I opened up my office in July of 87, my first production office. We were shooting in September of 88, the whole movie. We shot for 6 weeks. Now, in the natural order of things out here, it takes you 10 years to raise $1. But for some reason, as God, basically, I always felt God was involved in this whole project. I got funded right away. Now, it's not like, I only had one film under my belt. It's not like I had 10 films under my belt. I had one film. And at that particular time, I had just, by the time 87 come along, I had just, I had recovered my kills on cost, and I had paid about 80% return on my money, on the profit. So they made 180% return. So, but like I said, this stuff never happened. I know more filmmakers out here, it takes them years to get the money to make a movie. And they have the same script they've been pushing for 10, 12 years, 13 years, you know. But I felt there was a reason why this film was made. So then during the production, we were raising money. John's out raising money. I'm putting the whole thing together, and I'm out in location shooting it, directing it, the whole bit, you know, and the picture was too big for the budget. So about the third or fourth week into the film, I had about $3,000 in my checking account. Now, meanwhile, my cast and crew, because we had ordered the Huey twice. They thought we were sitting on $1 million and we weren't paying anybody. We were being cheap, okay? Because I couldn't get the shots that I wanted. So my partner says, order the Huey for another day. Just reschedule it. We'll just do it again. I said, John, we don't have the money. Don't worry about it. He said, I'll get the money. Okay. So, and that's how John is. John takes risks. You know, he worries about it. He doesn't cross bridges he don't see. He only crosses bridges he's standing on. So meanwhile, this whole week goes, the last week, I got a payroll about $30,000 on Friday. This is Monday. All right. So Tuesday, this girl calls up John Liebert, my partner, and he had sold her house and got her to move out of Long Beach to San Bernardino. And she says, John, I got all this money. I got $50,000. I don't know what to do with it. So he says, well, put some in an IRA, put some over here, put some over here, and I'm doing this like that. Then he hangs up the phone. Doesn't think about his problems, right? I was helping her out. So then he goes, oh my God. So he calls her back. She's not there. He calls her the next day. She's not there. So Tuesday night, she calls back and he said, Kathy, he said, do me a favor. Let me borrow the $50,000. I'm making a movie. I'll give it back to you in 30 days with $3,000 profit. Okay, so I'll give you $53,000 back. Because as we were shooting the movie, John was out raising money. The money was coming in, but it was coming in slower than we anticipated. So now this to me was sent by God. This woman called up. This was sent because this never happens. It doesn't happen to Spielberg. It doesn't happen to guys who make videos on their iPhones. It doesn't happen to anybody. But it happened to me. Okay. So meanwhile, I'm on location Wednesday, and then I think Wednesday was the day I had to shoot my scene because one of my actors from Boston was supposed to play the role. He couldn't make it, so I filled in for it. Okay. So, and so meanwhile, what was I going to say? So John doesn't tell me what's going on. So he tells her, talk it over with your family, blah, 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 and everything else. And they all told her no. But see, my partner, John, belonged to the Catholic Big Brothers, and he was the big brother of her son. And he got him out of the drug area in Long Beach and moved him out. So she said, John, I'm going to give you the money because you helped my son and me move out of that awful area. and you prevented my son from being on drugs. So he shows up Thursday, because at that time John had a red not red, he had a Cadillac convertible, red, white interior. And he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. He's got his cigar, and he's driving up, and he's got this girl in the car. I don't know who she is. So he wanted me to introduce me. Meanwhile, I look like I'm ready to be shot on Friday. I'm ready. I'm on death row, ready to I haven't shaved or anything. So I figure it's over. It's over on me on Friday, because once you can't pay your crew and your actors, you miss one day, you're done. It's over. The film shuts down, and they basically badmouth you all through town. And you can't. If you got $10 million, they won't come back to work. It's just the way it is. Okay. So it's all about reputation, and it's all about never bouncing a check on an independent, because independent filmmakers, the reputation is that they bounce checks everywhere. And I never did on both of my films. I never did. So, so he comes in, he introduced me to her, and he's standing behind her. So he takes the check out of his pocket, holds it over her head. I mean, I almost fell on my knees. That's how it hit me. And now we had the money to finish the movie. So to me, this was heaven sent, because this stuff never happens in real movies, in real life here in Hollywood. So we finished the film, and then I happened to meet my editor, because I was planning on editing it with my director of photography. Now, Peter Wolf is he's been a filmmaker. He's like, I think he's 72, 73. Peter's done about a dozen films. He's completely deaf, and he can't speak. So he's profoundly deaf. So I had to learn how to sign language with him, So the girl that he was dating at the time is now his wife, and she interpreted for me during the shoot. But we were going to cut the film, because I didn't know any editor, and then I figured we didn't have the money to pay an editor. So this guy walks in my office. I'm in a 1,000 square foot office in Hollywood, okay, well, technically Toluca Lake, and he's a tall English chap, and he says, I heard you made a film. I want to cut it. So he gave me his card, and he belonged to the American Cinema Editors, which is a union of top editors. You have to make so many films. You have to cut so many films to be nominated to get into that group, and someone's going to nominate you. Okay. So it's all by reputation. So he's been in that group for, probably since the 60s. So he walks in my office, and I said, well, his name is Alan Marks. I said, Mr. Marks, I'd love to, I'm sure you're more than qualified to cut my film. I said, but I don't have the money to pay you. He said, I'll work for your price. He says, I'm retired. He says, I'm tired of playing golf. I want to cut a movie again. So, again, stuff like this never happens, So I got him to meet my partner, and John loved him right away. And he saw the footage. He loved the footage. And we cut in my office. And it took us, I think it was from November, September, October. It was November to, I think, February. We cut the first cut of Forgotten Heroes. Then Alan had to go on, and he was working, he got called back on a TV show to cut. So he could only come once a week to do what he said. Meanwhile, I had learned enough from him to do the titles myself. One of the guys at the Technicolor, the union guys, he says, if I come to your office, he says, you have to pay me, union scale. He says, if we do it over the phone, I can give you all the advice you want over the phone for free. So he was talking to me on the phone while I'm sitting there counting frames, and I figured this whole thing out. Because the opening of Forgotten Heroes, I get 6 minutes of titles, which is longer than normal, but it's very artistic looking. So, I mean, like I said, I was getting all kinds of help. Now, once Alan, he taught me enough, so I used to go in and recut some of this stuff, because Alan was basically television cutter. So I used to go in and put the shots that he didn't like in. I put them back in, and he never noticed it. He didn't notice it. So I had a lot of artistic shots, sunset shots, and silhouette shots and stuff like that. And I purposely shot those shots to be in the film, But most TV cutters, they get rid of that stuff. They don't put it in.
Right.
They can shoot for television. So, but it was Alan who turned me on to West Productions, Dave West and his father Ray West, who were the mixing people. And Ray West won the Oscar for Star Wars special effects mixing. And Dave West, he'd get like 12 Emmys for TV shows, Hill Street Blues, all the sound mixing for that stuff. So I was in with some really top-notch people, and their mixing room was probably one of the best in Hollywood, So they worked a great deal with us, And then the mixer for the music, because we had what they call the A-team editors. And his name was John, but I forget his last name now. But this was back in 1989. We did this. Well, John had won the Oscar for the music mixing for the movie Cleopatra. So I had 2 Oscar winners and a guy that had several Emmys as the A-team mixing board. So they mixed a hell of a film for me. So. And then from there, Alan also turned me on to these guys who was the music sound from Disney. And Disney, I was introduced to Buddy Baker, who I didn't know who Buddy Baker was at the time. And even when I met him, it was sort of oh, this is how I met Buddy.
I don't mean to interrupt. I will give you an extra 2 minutes. We're going overtime, so Zoom is about to kick us off. I will give you the extra 2 minutes. I don't want to be rude.
Okay, well, like I said, I didn't know how much the story I was going to tell, but people can go to my website at ForgottenHeroesTheMovie.com. If they're interested in buying a copy, they can buy a copy. I'll get it right out to everybody, And tell them just to keep an eye on Killzone, Spartan Films release called Killzone. So we'll see what happens. But
No, absolutely. You send it my way, I'd be more than happy to promote it for you.
Yeah, okay. When they're going to do a new trailer, new artwork, I can send you that stuff. You can put it on your website, But if you want, you can put a link to Forgotten Heroes on there. But I just wanted to give some people a backstory of what's going on,
No, absolutely. Maybe one day you have my picture behind you.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple questions I want to talk to you off the air.
Okay.
But wrapping up, it's great to see you again after 8 years. When I first approached you to come back on the show, what made you say yes? And how do you feel after 8 years? What would you say to people about being on my show again?
Oh, no, I mean, it's 8 years. I mean, you've done a lot in 8 years. The show is much more professional looking, and you're more professional. And, I mean, even when I first did my radio show, I mean, I was all thumbs and all double talking and everything. Once you get your sea legs behind that microphone, then with now, I mean, you're doing with the podcast. I don't mind talking to you like this on a podcast. I don't know if I could ever be a host on a podcast. Because I still like the audio, but it looks good, Keith. I mean, everything looks good.
No, I appreciate it. If you're interested,
well,
I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize.
No, I said you've come a long way since the last time I saw the show. So
no, you're absolutely right. And I was watching my old episodes, and I'm like, oh, I want to promote it, and share now. And saying like, this is freaking terrible. Holy shit! Because. Yeah, so 8 ways, it's a learning experience.
It is.
You need to listen to the way I'm speaking to you right now, compared to the first time we talked, where I'm talking like this, and now I'm like diarrhea in the mouth. I can't shut up. So it's absolutely amazing. So I just gave myself a kick in the ass. I was like this 8 years ago, but there was no recording thing, so I had to record from the phone.
Right.
And a lot of people have this illusion of saying, I would love, like you're an example, I would love to be on your show again. It's gotten better. Other people are like, yeah, once was enough. And just because we did one interview and it was 8 years ago doesn't mean it's the same thing. It's getting better. Like, I used to say uncensored. I don't even use that anymore. My new catchphrase, it's so many different things, but we can talk about that off here. Well, wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 3 down the road. I just want to say thank you for your time.